Apollo is saying the following: there's no rapture here. Here we have Mars.
'60th, third class of University X. Out of 72, the end is approaching. Today, 2 classes in one, physiognomy and original visagism. Your material appearance reveals who you are. And the class who remembers, no one changes, they only reveal themselves. Do you know what physiognomy is? Have you ever watched the series Lie to Me? It's a good cinematic example to understand the importance of physiognomy. Watch a little bit, but make sure it's from the series Lie to Me. Don't lie to me. Have you ever read any material on facial, lip, or body reading? Have you ever been in front of a gypsy, fortune teller, palm reader, or someone who read your hands? Have you ever been hypnotized, fallen to the ground, been enraptured in a church, or tried to go back to the past? Regression. Have you ever done yoga or tried astral travel? A method of leaving the body, disincarnation? Or have you ever been to an iridologist? Have you heard of landscaping, of visagism? If any of these things, all these subjects are interconnected. Original visagism. The French Freemason, Fanon, created the term in 1936. It is the wisdom of creating a personal image that reveals someone's inner qualities. This is visagism. It is very connected to physiognomy. Physiognomy, in turn, is the wisdom of deciphering a person's character and personality through their appearance. All that I have presented to you now, that I will present to you now, is Eastern wisdom. Why Eastern wisdom? Because the Easterners have mastered this subject for a long time. This only reached the West through books, and someone here and there knows about it. Research with thousands and thousands of people and thousands of years. Everything I am going to talk about is well documented. And please, at no point, please, do not get confused thinking that it is Professor Atkins' opinion. I am not here to talk about guesswork or opinion. So, if you get offended, you are being childish, immature, and not here to evolve. Everything I say is not personal, obviously. Everything I say has a whole and has a globalism of appearance. So don't go looking and saying this, then it doesn't match. It doesn't match because it's a whole of appearance. So we start well to avoid problems. Shall we? The 4 elements not only form the human body, but also represent vital regions of the body. What are the 4 elements? Number 1, water, represent the kidneys. And they are vital organs, right? Kidneys, earth, liver, spleen, and pancreas. They are vital organs. Fire represents the heart. Look there, Dr. Enrique, Dr. Inez. And air represents the lungs. If there's a vital organ, it's the lungs. We have already lost many students who are in eternity waiting for us. From lung problems, kidney problems, pancreas. The forehead. It's written on the forehead, people say, right? On the forehead, we can identify intellectual capacity. Did you know that you can identify it on your forehead? Just by the size, volume, and shape of your forehead? Who remembers the tefillin? Where will it be placed? Spiritually, it's also there. And don't come talking to me about the mark of the beast, because, in truth, those who will reign with Jesus will also have a mark on their forehead. The forehead is a great element of identification. Identification doesn't even need to be technological, because before technology reached our foreheads, God already made a technology in our foreheads. How? Who here has been called big forehead? To those with big foreheads, I say rejoice. I have good news for you. First, I want to ask the girls that I really need you today. Every time I'm talking about something, if you can, it has to be very quick. You go to Google, already have a window open. Get the image of what I'm talking about. Put it in images and signal me with a hand gesture. Are you going over there? Go ahead then. You two do it and let me know. Because if you do this, at least at some moments, you won't be able to do everything as it's a lot. But then people will be able to identify better. Who has a big forehead here? Hair is very important to know where the forehead begins and ends. So it's the hair that will. Without bangs, decide where the forehead starts and ends. Who here has a wide forehead? And in this case, the girls just type wide forehead into Google and a picture shows up. Those with a wide forehead have a great capacity for creativity and memory. Why do you think you have a wide forehead? Because you're brainy. Incredibly, the forehead is not disconnected. The forehead reveals that you really have a great capacity for creativity. People with big foreheads usually stick their tongues out as a sign of creativity. I always say that when a person is going to play snooker, they focus. I do that. Sometimes, when a person is painting a picture, they stick their tongue out. Why? Tends to be more progressive, evolves more easily. If you've been called big forehead until now, know that you have a greater capacity than they do. So, there's a good side to having a big forehead. Very good. Also, those with wide foreheads know how to live in harmony with people. That is, it's wide because the person is open. It's elastic. Has a big heart that can hold many people. The likely flaw is that they can be very detached because of the large forehead. They are very driven by emotion. Very emotional. Reveal. The physical points to the metaphysical even in physiognomy. You will understand soon, as the physical prominence reveals the prominence. It's incredible. Everything you have that is prominent, that stands out, is a sign from God of your abilities. Everything that is large on your body also represents your metaphysical strength. But dualistically, everything that favors you also condemns you. Who here has a narrow forehead? Those with a narrow forehead do not easily accept different ideas and thoughts. They have difficulty in social interactions, tend to have less control over their ego. However, they are extremely cheerful. They are very good at logic, discernment, calculations, the part of intellect, reasoning, data analysis, spreadsheets. Who here has a high forehead? A person with a high forehead has remarkable intellectual capacity, elevated spirituality and philosophical understanding. Great. So, those with a high forehead are good at philosophy. And so, do you see the difference there? People with high foreheads are generally sweet, understanding, and uphold ethics and morals. But they are stubborn and obstinate. Later, you can do some research to see what kind of forehead you really have, if you're in doubt. And who has a forehead? Low? Those with a low forehead generally have a natural tendency to be materialistic, or only believe in tangible things. Look at that big forehead. That big forehead there represents great creativity. People with a low forehead generally have a natural tendency to be materialistic or only believe in tangible things. They need to touch to see. Tomei is a determined person, but only believes by seeing. They have to go through it alone to learn. They are entrepreneurial, can start a business because they will pursue their goals, but will struggle to dematerialize and be altruistic. So I want you to identify yourselves and say in the chat, saying such person, me. That's exactly how I am. Hair. Hair reflects the type of thinking. Who here has straight hair? Did you notice what the forehead reflects? What did I say the forehead reflects? Intellectual capacity. And what does hair reflect? Thoughts. Shall we talk about thoughts? Your hair, just by looking at it, can reveal your thoughts. Who here has straight hair? Straight hair shows that the person has linear thinking. They are objective. They are extremely objective. They are clear, direct, pragmatic. Who here has curly hair? Curly hair shows that the person frequently revisits past issues. It can be just memory or lead to depression. People with curly hair have a tendency towards depression. And if they don't have depression, are they victims of low ego, as we discussed in the previous class? 62. They are always belittling themselves, saying, I am less than others. Curly hair, when the person manages to achieve this metanoia, they can overcome. Even so, they always need to be valued, to feel good. Redheads. They are people with a tendency to be explosive, fiery hair, sanguine, usually rebellious, reactionary with the life they have. Even if they are not redheads, but would like to be. And whenever they can, they dye their hair red. That spirit is the same as having a redhead inside you. I want to make it clear. Someone might say, Professor, I'm not a redhead, so this doesn't apply to me. If you always dye your hair red, or have always dyed it, or have dyed it for a long time, and whenever you can, you dye it red, the spirit of physiognomy, that's yours, even if you are something else. If a person only sees themselves as blonde in the mirror, then I'm talking to you, blonde, even if you weren't born blonde. If you only see yourself with black hair, brunette, you're blonde, but you don't accept it. You want to be brunette? Then you. When I talk about dark hair or dark features here, then it's for you. It's the spirit of the person, not necessarily the genetic aspect. Where are the blonde men and women? Blonde men and women are generally more emotionally needy, with various affective crises. And then, Daniel, you who are redhead, do you catch fire sometimes or not? Almost, always, for example. Thank you. Fire or not? The good part about this is that if you know how to use that fire, right? Illuminate brunettes and dark-haired people, 50% ego. Learn? Blondes, 60% ego. Redheads, 70% ego. Redheads suffer more. Look at the English. But they are the holders of patents, creators, evolved. Redheads are great world leaders, but they suffer more with their ego. Those with African roots have less tendency towards ego. They find it easier to overcome their ego. Indigenous and African roots, yellow, mixed race, and black skin find it easier to overcome their ego. Now, blondes and blonde men, they also struggle to overcome their ego, you see? Tendencies, counterbalances, compensations of God's creation. People with black hair are extremely determined, but they need to learn to be active and not suffer from bombism, folks. We talked about curly hair. Look, redheads, blondes. Mine are putting it there, but they're late. They suffer from pombism. Why, folks, what is pombism? It's lacking, needs to be more serpentine, right? A person with black hair is very kind-hearted. And life wasn't made for the overly nice, right? It's a balance. Spiky hair. These are electric, hyperactive people. They produce a lot, but need to balance. Not necessarily born with spiky hair. They like to spike. This little spiky tuft, spiky hair, and the person is always spiking. These are electric people. They don't stop, hyperactive. See, it's hard to hold these people back, you know? They don't settle down. Right? Short hair indicates people who have difficulty taking orders. They swallow, right? United? They swallow their ego with difficulty. They are leaders. They even serve, help, but they don't accept being dominated by anyone. And they usually live alone. But they are the most devoted and diligent in what they believe. Have you seen those Catholic women who go to Mass with short hair? The most devoted people there are. The shorter the hair, the more devoted, the more diligent. However, no one sends a ring. No one dares to open their mouth to. Long hair indicates people more likely to take orders. I mean, people with long hair, they can yield more, handle their ego better, relate more easily. And during the Enneagram of God, the spectrum of God of 72 types of people, revealed. Your Visagism. That is, your haircut reveals who you are. Did you know? Look, the longer the hair, the shorter the hair. Professor, I was born with little hair. That's right. The genetics are fundamental, but the spirit is more. The spirit is unchangeable. The spirit is what truly determines. The spirit of long hair or short hair? I am of short hair. So that is your spirit. More hair. Less ego. Less hair. More ego. And you will see this all the time here. But everyone has an ego, and everyone needs to overcome it. The ego, of course. Bald people tend to be or want to be. They want to be leaders. They do not accept being below. They suffer a lot with the ego. In fact, the Chinese say that hair falls out, revealing your individual personality. However, if they master their ego, they will become great leaders. You can see that the great leaders of the world, almost all of them are. Have you seen the richest people in the world? Leaders, almost all of them are, man. Almost all. Or many, let's say many, right? White hair. Who has white hair here? I mean white hair, by genetics, already on earth and age, not those from advanced age. They are people who, through suffering, have overcome their ego. They have nullified themselves or have an easier time overcoming it. They tend to nullify themselves to defend someone, the family, a group, a mission. So, people who turn gray very early, at 30, 40, 50 years old, are people who find it easier to nullify their ego for the sake of the whole. The eyebrows. Shall we talk about thick and dense eyebrows? Thick and dense eyebrows. The thicker the eyebrows, the more determined they are. The spiky hair there. Oh, boys. Not there, boys. The thicker the eyebrows, the more determined, strong, and with a greater ego. The fewer the eyebrows, or the more subtle and thin, the more fragile, sensitive, and low ego the person is. Who here has thin eyebrows? They tend to be apathetic, inert, but they are more peaceful people. Liberal tendency. Those people with very thin eyebrows have a liberal tendency. Just by looking at her, I already know she's liberal. While I'm talking to you, many people come to mind. There are vices. They also have tendencies towards vices. However, they know well what they want for their lives. They are decisive people. They are good people. They help others, but they have a tendency towards liberalism. Be careful. Balance it. Look, these are points of physical globality. What is this? It is necessary to view appearance holistically to have the most truthful vision possible of oneself or others. Some say, I don't accept myself as I am. I don't like my chin. It's too big. I don't like my ear. It's too big. Well, know that, according to facial psychology, the larger the parts of your body, the more virtues you have. More capabilities, more gifts, more skills. Did you know? For example, let's go. Eyebrows dense and messy. You know those unkempt eyebrows? Who has them here? Generally, they are conflicted people. They can't get rid of conflicts. They need to evolve and channel that energy into life missions. Now, when I say this currently, I'm saying that if this person channels that energy that leads them to conflicts, they will do very well. I don't know if you've noticed, but everything that is born in us and is poorly channeled. Alchemize, someone doesn't understand the word channeling is to completely change to the right path. If someone doesn't even is understanding that to alchemize is to transform. Alchemized, channeled. You have very great benefits different from others. Does that mean born with a benefit? Yes, actually, the benefit. What is needed then? Change. Someone said is talking there that their hair started turning white at 20 years old. You see? That's it. And what if the eyebrows meet at the bridge of the nose? You know those eyebrows that meet here? Usually, they are jealous people. Jealous of their things, not of their spouse or others. They are jealous of their things, attached to the material things they have achieved with hardship. What they achieve by working, they are very attached. They are people of character, but they can be easily deceived in a sale, for example. Eyebrows close to the eyelids. They are usually ambitious, determined people, anxious about tomorrow. But they will suffer from this excess of thinking about tomorrow. And reserved with their secrets, right? Reserved, that's wrong here. Reserved with their secrets. They don't open up. They think a lot. They can't organize their thoughts or control their mind. Eyebrows distant from the eyelids. They are generally people. Look at the thin eyebrow there. Liberal, you see? Isn't it clear that she is liberal? People with thin eyebrows, the thinner they are, the more liberal. They are generally indecisive, shy, fragile, naive, innocent people, and they will need a lot of growth to protect themselves from the harsh world of scrutiny. Because they are people who can be easy prey for men, bad ones, for bad people, especially in the field of relationships. The eyes. The eyes are the most important points to be observed in physiognomic reading, or physiognomy. Folks, look at this wonderful thing I'm going to say. Did you see how I opened this class or not? I talked about palmistry, cartomancy, gypsies, and I connected it. All of this is physiognomy. Then the person asks why the professor connected professor and everything else. Because when you have this knowledge that you learned by observing others, because magic can be done just by observing. Never took a magic course. But just by watching someone perform a magic trick, you imitate and do the same, and do it for others. Isn't that right? How self-taught you are. You can replicate, and people are self-taught. If you were born into a gypsy family, you start learning here. You observe how your mother does it, how your aunt did it, how your grandmother did it. People who go to church don't just watch how the prophet aunt did it, prophesies did it, you know? It's not. You observe how the grandmother does it, the mother does it, and you do the same. And you keep reproducing it. What I'm trying to say is that this knowledge, which is absolutely scientific, that is, wise wisdom, is used in the name of mysticism, is used in the name of the Holy Spirit. Orisha. God. Angel. Do you understand? The person will say, God is saying, religion is saying, but in reality, it's just knowledge. If you have this knowledge, you can see a lot about people's lives and get it right. The eyes are the most important points, aren't they? And speaking of eyes, look at this, I will reveal. When a person has eyes close to each other, look at this, how beautiful it is here. When a person has eyes close to each other, they indicate a rational, realistic, and generally melancholic person who really needs the help of others, right? I'm saying, when a person has eyes very close together. Listen carefully, it means, ladies and gentlemen, look at this. Do you understand that if the eyes are close? It's a person who really needs others. They have a great emotional need. Look how interesting. Now, if your eyes are far apart, look how incredible. Distant eyes reveal a more insensitive, colder, independent psychological tendency. They do well on their own. I mean, just by the proximity of the eyes you were born with, you already know if you do well on your own or not. If someone needs this or that. So if the eyes are distant, depending on the distance, does it represent yours? When you see someone with eyes very close together, give them a hug and say, "Come here, needy one." They will have to evolve to understand original love. Now, when you see eyes very far apart, don't even hug them because the person will say it's harassment. I don't need to say a hug. Get out of here. The closer one eye is to the other, the more sensitive, altruistic, and loving they are. They think before speaking, don't hurt anyone. They try not to hurt anyone, but they get emotional easily. Small nose. Who has a small nose there? On the contrary, they are fragile people who need to evolve a lot to pass the test. Concave or convex nose, which is up or down. These are people who have difficulty tolerating, forgiving, are anxious, impatient, and need to balance. The same goes for people with a nose. Nostrils tilted upwards. Those with nostrils pointing downwards demand a lot from themselves. People with low nostrils will have to learn to deal with it and accept themselves. Straight and horizontal nostrils are balanced people. Look how interesting. If the nostril is straight, not up or down, then it is in balance. It is patient. It seeks coherence. If the nostril is straight, these are people who seek balance and coherence. If the nose is concave. If the nose is concave at the top, they are organized. These photos are coming in, all delayed. I put them here and nobody knows anything anymore. Look at the eyebrows there. It has to be on time, obviously. Slightly angular and angled. See? Rounded. What is your eyebrow? There? 7 types of eyebrows. I used to say, concave nose at the top. They are organized, but they struggle to produce because they don't trust the gifts they have. Or sometimes they don't even know the gifts they have because they don't believe in themselves. Look at that. Concave nose at the bottom. They are stubborn and impulsive. They need to channel this. For good. Terrible, but the chiefs of the tribes were always chosen by the size of their nose. Did you know? There isn't a tribal chief who doesn't have a big nose. To be a tribal chief, you have to have a big nose.
I was going to study well.
Jews and Arabs. Jews and Arabs almost all have big noses. Big nose, power, isn't it true? Look at the Abraham Accords there. When you look at the Abraham Accords, it's only people with big noses. Lips, they are analyzed in delta. Did you know that your lips are delta? Width, line, and height. Let's go, mouth with angles upwards. These are people who love to smile, enjoy, are optimistic, proud, sociable. Angles downwards, they are melancholic, have fear, are closed off, and don't trust themselves. Lips slightly open, are quiet, impulsive, and sometimes even aggressive. Now the types of noses. Look, are you seeing? Now about the mouth. Restless, impulsive, and sometimes even aggressive, yet they are very fragile and need love to overcome the scrutiny. People with slightly open lips. will need a lot of love to overcome, which, due to the crises of fragility, are constant. Folks, everything I'm saying is about tendencies. Born this way there. What can come out of avoiding this? And evolution, that's why you have to, and I will, and this has to evolve, because otherwise you'll be a slave to it forever. Wrinkled lips never blame themselves. It's always others who are to blame, stressed, suffer from boredom. They will need a lot of truth to overcome themselves. But they are generally very beautiful people, which is exactly why they will suffer, unless they overcome their egos. People with prominent upper lips are simple, generous, hate injustice, generally charitable, and suffer with sensuality. People with a prominent lower lip struggle to evolve and learn, and they generally have intestinal problems. People with full lips will struggle to overcome material pleasures. With an appeal to illusion, to the Truman Show, they don't want responsibilities or worries. They live for personal pleasure and will always be, and will be easily seduced unless they overcome their egos. Chins. Let's move on to chins. Look at the types of mouths. See that? Who here has rounded lips? Look there, thin, small, drooping, full. Wide, square, and bony chins. They are ambitious. They are people who will need to evolve to know how to behave. The more angle in the chin, the more echo. Square chins with rounded corners. They are balanced, patient people. You see how interesting what God made, right? Square, more echo. That chin, well, very square. Usually robust people. When the chin is more rounded, you see the chin more rounded. People are easier to deal with, more flexible. Everything that is more circular, head, oval, chin, oval. Everything that is circular, nose, oval. You know those things, all oval, spherical. You say, wow, what a potato nose. Wow, those people get bullied. These people are easy to deal with. They are kind. They are sweet because they are more circular. Everything that is more flexible, circular. Now, everything that is more square is square. It's more difficult. Especially if they have a square chin and white hair, then they are people who are difficult to forgive. Narrow and thin chin, they are shy, loving, sensitive, and intelligent. But they are people who get offended easily. Chin with a vertical dimple. They change their minds. A lot have a tendency towards inconsistency. When you see that little hole here, look. That vertical dimple. Chin with a lot. Very prominent chin. What is that? Prominent chin? They have a tendency for sales. A profession of persuasion, but they will need a lot of truth to overcome ego and greed. So when you see a person with a chin, very prominent chin, it's a sign that the person has skill in sales. They are people who love to be against something just to appear wise. But they would overcome themselves. The ego. This prominent chin also represents the excellence of persuasion, to convert, changing people and ideas. When you see a person with a big chin, prominent chin, that person has a calling, a natural vocation to teach, to be a teacher. Look, just a big chin. You have to have a big chin. Chin, right? We're going to get to this, huh? Keep this image in mind, huh? It's not the time yet. But here, the types of faces too. Later, I'll show it. No need. What I want is the chin. There you go. Chin. There you go. Look, that person there, the square there. Look, that one is a handful. That one has an ego. Just the X on the pants. Those more circular ones up there, those three there, are people who are easier to deal with. See? And have you looked at your own chin? You'll remain indifferent. Are you scared? Look at the chin there. The ears. Look, big ones. It means you'll have to struggle to overcome your ego. Look, small ones, less ego. Easier to overcome materialism, those with big ears. The face will have to evolve a lot. The teeth. The upper dental arch represents relationships with the mother. Did you know that? Look how interesting, Clarice. The upper dental arch represents relationships with the mother. Folks. Upper teeth projected forward can mean a spoiled maternal upbringing. The girls here know, I've seen a lot of people with teeth projected forward, and I say, look there, look at the spoiled one. I don't know if you know, but it's incredible. Folks, look here, we are not a body, we are a spirit incarnated in a body. You know that. A spark of God was lent. We are a spirit incarnated in a rented body. A borrowed body. Isn't that right? So when the spirit from a little baby goes in there, adapting to that incarnation, and then evolves in there, evolving and reacting to the scrutiny, and starts materializing, it starts externalizing. The flesh starts shaping according to what the spirit inside it works on. So if the spirit is groaning, if the spirit is angry, reactionary, vengeful, hostile, if the spirit is calm, peaceful, if the spirit is stagnant, if the spirit is agitated, what the spirit does in the flesh, you have no idea, but everything externalizes. So there is the genetics that comes from what your father and mother were spiritually. So sometimes your nose, your mouth, your teeth, your body, your hair, it's what your mother and father did their whole lives spiritually, and it materialized in you. But from there, also, what your spirit does materializes in you, shaping you. For example, let's suppose you have an egotistical habit of always holding your chin up, arrogance, or your tongue always moving around your teeth, grinding your teeth, or some tics constantly moving your eye, constantly moving your teeth, constantly. It depends on the movements you make since you were a child. I'm talking, folks, since you were a baby. Do you know what happens? Your dental formation, for example. It will be exactly what your spirit inside, it stirred and shaped and formed this body. And just by looking at someone's teeth, you can see how their childhood was. Did you understand that? Because your spirit is in there, it is agitated. And it moves, it shapes the formation of the teeth. The wrinkles, your irritation, like over time. People who are always like this, frowning their forehead. This here gets wrinkled from so much worry. Calm people only tend to. Look, folks, I don't know if you understand, but calm, kind, flexible, balanced people only tend to have good things. Health. You'll see at the end of the class. Less fat. Fewer health problems. Good skin. I don't know if you understand, but even, like, I suffer from cellulite, stretch marks. I suffer from blackheads, pimples. What do you suffer from? Either it's the spirit of your mother who worked wrong, the spirit of your father who worked wrong, or it's your spirit. And worse, depending on what your spirit does, it not only fails to fix what your mother's spirit did wrong, what your father did wrong, but it also won't fix your life and will pass it on to your child. You have the opportunity to correct your mother's spirit, your father's spirit, to save your life in the end and pass this on to your child. Now, if you don't correct it, do you understand this? How serious all of this is? Upper teeth protruding forward can mean a spoiled maternal upbringing. If someone has teeth protruding forward, the upper top teeth, pay attention, it can mean that the mother or grandmother is spoiling. Sometimes the grandmother spoils to make up for what she didn't do for her daughter. The lower arch represents relationships with the father. There you go. Father, mother, mother, father. Yes, you're learning. Lower teeth, crooked or malformed, can indicate formation. rigid, paternal formation. Legalistic, conservative, religious. Look at this. Crooked teeth down here. Just by looking at the crooked lower teeth, this person had a difficulty with the father. So if you were the child of a very legalistic, macho father, you might have crooked or malformed lower teeth, or some problem with the lower part of the teeth. Look at this. Isn't it amazing? The left side of the teeth represents fear, and look at this, folks. The left side of the teeth. Look there, put your hand there. They represent fear and regression. If someone has a problem with the left side of the mouth, anyone with dental issues, and hello to the former dentists watching us, send this to the former dentists. Now, on the other side, the right side of the teeth indicates conflicts generated by external factors. A problem on the right side of the teeth can mean financial issues, education, marriage, status, something external. In other words, it can be revealed. Left side of the teeth, internal problems. Right side of the teeth. It just had to be. You see, I can. Read the hand, read the cards, I can read the teeth. Go to the iridologists there. The spiritualists are iridologists, right? They read the eyes, the little spots in the eyes. But sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's not always accurate. But when you do a holistic approach, just look at the teeth. Left side of the teeth. Do you have a problem? On the left sides of the teeth? Who can tell me they have it now? If there's any problem on the left side, it's an internal problem. If there's an external problem, it's on the right side. Right side, external problem. Interesting, isn't it? So those who have a problem on the left side have an internal problem with themselves, something that needs to be resolved psychologically. Right side, external, with others. External world, out there. Amazing, right? And who has it on both sides? General problem. Internal and external. We could talk about the size of the hips, the buttocks, the shoulders, the chest, the breast, the abdomen, the calves, the double chin. Besides sagging, localized fat, saddlebags. Where everything in us speaks, reveals, in the materialization of our spirit. Want to see? Look, now a series of revelations. Examples. Those who don't forgive someone may have abdominal diseases or fat in the abdominal region. Frustrated desires and dreams generate fat and problems in the arm. In the spleen, this is wrong, it needs to be corrected. And those who eat a lot. These are symptoms of anxiety and lack of control over one of the 3 times of life. Who remembers? We talked about it in class 62. Attachment to material things, anger, and arrogance generate diseases in the waist. Resentments generate fat and love handles. Women hate love handles, right? It's no use dieting, educating, eating, re-educating, eating, going to the gym if you have it. Resentment makes those with a tendency gain weight and also prevents thin people from gaining weight. Well, forgive. Resentment holds you back. It's no use going to the gym with a sense of resentment. People with large buttocks do not accept being controlled. They are generally authoritarian. People with well-defined buttocks are brave and determined, but because they are independent, they struggle to be truthful. People who have a double chin hate being criticized because they are very sensitive. They don't like truths. This is so true that I'm saying many people might. This is so true, there's scientific evidence that people with a double chin, if you tell them a truth, the chin actually swells and enlarges while you are speaking the truth. Thin calves indicate fear. Toned calves indicate exaggerated self-confidence. Resentments can cause localized fat in the pectoral muscles. And also, consequently, what women can't stand, which is sagging breasts. Well then, to get rid of this, resentment even makes breasts sag. Of course, there's the genetic factor, but the behavior of the spirit. Before someone writes down here, genetics, the problem is that the spirit accelerates. As I said, your spirit is responsible for Solving the problems of the past, father and mother. Solving the problems of the present, you. Solving the problems of the future, your children. The spirit is responsible for the present, past, and future. Firm breasts indicate strength and determination, but they will have difficulty overcoming themselves. Women with long hips are sensitive, but they are excellent mothers and wives. Who wants to get married, huh? Women with long hips. Excellent mothers and wives. Women with narrow hips are strong, but they compete with their future husband. Or current husband for the main decisions. The narrow hip. Wants to have a voice, wants to be in charge. Broad shoulders represent courage, while narrow ones represent melancholy and need a lot of understanding from those around them. If you have any disability, any physical problem in the flesh body on the right side, this indicates that you generally have conflicts with women, have some problem with women today, or because of the past. Look how interesting. If you have any physical problem on the right side of your body, you have problems with women. And if it's a woman, if you are a woman, woman with woman, and if you are a man, you have difficulty relating to the spirit or the opposite sex. I am talking about woman in any aspect. If it's a woman who has a problem on the right side, woman, she has difficulty relating to women. Is it on the right side? It's with women that you have a problem. Those who have a deficiency or not in the husband, left side of the body, are people who have conflicts with men. And if it's on both sides, you already know. I overcome it. This is wisdom, Indian, Chinese, Middle Eastern. In Visagism, you look at it dually. Look how interesting this is in Visagism. The great professionals of hair salons, of beauty, facial harmonization, lip filler. All these people who are working with these things today, aesthetics, aesthetic clinics. Listen carefully. People today who have beauty clinics are taking Visagism courses. Original. I mean Visagism. For us here, the original. But Visagism is the following. Look how interesting, folks. This is really good here. For women, Visagism teaches you have to look at their right side. Did you know that? Even for making an assessment. You never evaluate a woman from the left side, only from the right side. So you have to take her profile from her right side, and then you'll have the vision of what's good for her, which hairstyle is good for her, which clothes are good for her, which jewelry is good for her. And men are seen from the profile on the left side. Look how interesting. Look at how wonderful this image is.
Look at this image that's on your screen.
Pretty great, right?
Just her. If you are wise. If you're not wise, you didn't notice anything. Just her. On your screen.
So we have hexagonal, round, the easiest people to deal with, triangular, rectangular, square. You see there's an upward delta and a downward delta. See? Hexagonal again. You see there's a straight side hexagonal and a hexagonal with a straight base. The diamond and the oval. People with more circular faces are easier to deal with. Look at this picture here. That Luisa also selected, exemplifying people you know. See? Interesting, isn't it? Have you found yourselves in all this or not? What are you? Now let's not talk about external appearance, but the external members, revealing what is internal, bringing out what you are in your social and individual behavior. It's what I've been saying, spiritual. The spirit shapes the flesh. So let's connect to the other very important lesson to conclude, which is that no one changes, they only reveal themselves. Isn't that right? So where's your ID? Where's your identity? Shall we go? Our sovereign master said, is it possible to gather grapes from thorn bushes? Or figs from weeds? In the same way, the tree of good produces good fruits, and the tree of evil produces evil fruits. And can a bad tree produce good fruits? Professor, that's so simple. It's simple, but people don't learn. That a son of Abel is a son of Abel, and a son of Cain is a son of Cain. Cain is extra. Abel is extra. And every tree that does not produce good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. In other words, is God fixing it? Is there a way? Is there change? Does fire burn the tree? No. Do you know the difference between luck, misfortune, coincidence, cold mathematics, quantum crossing, synchronicity, interference? Who remembers this class? Who is from that time? That's what's difficult. Luck and misfortune need no comments, right? You already know what luck and misfortune are. Does luck and misfortune exist? Yes and no, right? Luck doesn't exist in the sense of mysticism. Now, does luck exist in the sense of what? Here, cold mathematics. Cold. Because cold mathematics is about the possibilities of crossing. We're talking about mathematical probabilities. And then there's quantum crossing, which is when we have affinity and create a connection. But there are also these crossings, coincidence, and this connection that sometimes exists generates synchronicity. If it's none of that in the sieve passing through the quarry, then yes, it could be interference. And what do churches do? They turn all of this into interference. For them, everything is interference. Everything is God. Nothing else is man's choice, right? It was never luck. It was always God. It was never luck. The Creator is the same yesterday, today, and eternally. I mean, doesn't this immutability already reveal that no one changes? Professor Paulo talked about the vessels born for honor and the vessels born for dishonor. Isn't it clear? One thing, like the great moments of philosophy X, if we died today, we would make a great reprogramming. What are the great moments of philosophy X? The day you learned who the devil is. The day you learned that God does not interfere. Yes or no? But one of the greatest maxims is who the devil is, your ego. Second, which is duality, right? Duality. Second, God's justice, which is God's non-interference. God never interfered for an individual person, always interfered for the whole. Mistake, unity. And when the Melchizedek factor intervened alone, it was for the salvation of someone who didn't know. Didn't know. Those who already know have no sign. Isn't that right? Those who already know have no sign. That day was difficult, wasn't it? When you reach that understanding. But there is a third understanding to close the delta of the story of X, which is brutal. The X has more than 1,000 subjects, but these three, they are indispensable. The third is nobody. Changes. It's the day I gave that lesson. It was that wonderful day. And you even laughed. At that moment, someone cut. It wasn't even me.
What do you think about those who were never anything, nothing? Never did anything, produced nothing. Shall we produce here? Nobody. Changes.
The Creator is the same. The vessels are born. They reveal themselves. And then, when we take duality, let's be honest, after you have just had 63 lessons with me, did you see or did you not see duality in everything in the Bible and outside the Bible? In everything. Even in the outlet that's near you. The question, interference, did you see it at any moment? Afterwards, I think we saw the entire Bible. In these last few months, we have been studying. We saw the entire Bible. Did you see any case where God intervened to help someone alone? Do you remember any case where God made an exception? Was there any case of exception? This one I will help. And now, for the third most important and essential subject, I ask, who was? Who changed their essence in biblical history and outside the Bible? Did Gideon get lost? Some of the prophets? Some of the patriarchs? So, see, the only time we see someone change for the better. The few cases, like, for example, Nebuchadnezzar's family, he lost it all. The Herod family was bad from beginning to end. But when we see Nebuchadnezzar change, you say, see how he changes. But what do you have there? The case of someone who never knew the truth, who was born and was faithful to what he believed. At the first opportunity he understood the truth, he changed forever and died. With that metanoia, I mean, it's because he never knew. Do you realize that I am making a connection between God? Doesn't interfere and no one changes? God doesn't interfere. It's as important as no one changes. And if you don't understand this lesson 63 in your life, no one changes. Professor, I don't know why you connected this with physiognomy. Why physiognomy? No one changes? What is in your nose, in your mouth, on your face, on your skin, in your color? Is what you are. You will have to deal with it and work with it. It's written, Maktab, understood. So, moving from the physical and ending the metaphysical lesson, ending the lesson in a spiritual way, I tell you, the great pains you go through, the sufferings you endure are because you don't understand that God left the cosmos this way. No one changes. First thing, why do you suffer so much in life? Because you don't accept duality. You have to learn to like evil. Evil will always exist and you have to use it to your advantage. Write it down. You have to use evil to your advantage. Evil will always come. Evil will not be eradicated, annihilated, destroyed. Evil has to be used to our advantage. Can you understand or not? You have to like evil. You have to make coffee for evil. You know that coffee. Evil will knock on your door. Evil will always be ringing the doorbell, won't it? And you know, you even have a bid for it. A bid. You already make the coffee. Come on, evil. Second thing, you suffer so much because you don't accept that God doesn't interfere. When you accept that God is just, that you're not daddy's little privileged one, you won't suffer so much from frustration. And third, stop believing that this situation close to you will change. I don't know if you understood, but what really cures depression in the last class, original psychology, frustrations, one's own ego, which generated frustrations, generated dreams. Utopian, unattainable, and then frustrations. I don't know if you're understanding, but the connection between lesson 62 and 63 is here. That's why it's the continuation of original psychology. Because as long as you think it changes, you will be a slave to the same situation. You're in a loop. You're in a cyclical movement. And you'll stay in it. When you free yourself and shout, Luzmar, Sonia. When you shout and say, I understood. I release. I open my hands and let go of what I was holding onto my whole life. I let go. I release. I let it go. I understood that it doesn't change. Do you understand that? Today's lesson is a continuation of the color of depression. Because if you don't understand that things don't change, this is a utopian and unattainable dream, which will generate frustration, which will generate depression. Many people are depressed precisely because they want to believe in a change. If you free yourself today and let go of this huge demand you have with yourself, even with other people, and that it has to change. Do you know what your problem is? You spent your whole life saying that it has to change. When, in fact, what I'm teaching you is that you have to accept. Churches preach, change. I preach, accept. Accept your origin, your condition, accept who you are. Accept the evil, accept the misfortune, accept things as they are. Just accept. So, this third lesson of the 3 subjects, it is very important to uproot once and for all, inhibiting any new frustration. Frustration is faith applied incorrectly. Wrong hope generates frustration. Professor, but I don't understand. It's the school. Doesn't it have to evolve? It has to evolve, not change. I don't understand the difference. To evolve is when you've changed, made the metanoia, which is 180. The 180, which is converted. Then you walk towards evolution, evolving forever in the same direction, converted. So, turning, changing, converting, you only do once. Evolving is the whole life after conversion. Evolve. I can evolve both forward and backward. Evolving is the journey. If you don't accept to evolve, you can also evolve towards evil. The person who listens to me now and doesn't want to undergo metanoia, who perhaps doesn't even have a chance anymore because they already devalued the only opportunity they had, they will evolve too, but they will evolve towards evil. There is no human being who isn't moving forward. Do you understand? Either forward or backward, everyone is moving. Now, metanoia is only one.
In medicine, evolution is like this. The doctor makes the record daily. The patient evolved, then they evolve from the bed to the ICU. Or they evolve from the emergency box to a more relaxed observation. Or they can evolve to recovery, or they evolve to death. Always evolution. Positive or negative.
Be it negative, right? Churches deceive and are deceived. By preaching changes, have you noticed that churches, look, I know there are evangelical people watching me and very upset with me. Catholics. But you need to understand, this is the truth. Churches deceive. Do you know why? Because they preach change all the time. What does a church preach, folks? What does the church preach, folks? Change. Do you know how much this generates? Frustration? Our psyche is formed by the age of 25, isn't that right? With up to 10 references that we mirror for our ontological formation, which is our being. I mean, what am I trying to say with this? Before that, it's possible to say that you will change. And that's why there's confusion in churches. Because yes, the person who made mistakes, label, rat, and even crime before the age of 25 without ontological formation, they can change. I have students who committed horrible things. At 14, at 16, at 18, at 20, and today they are upstanding, mature human beings. Formed families, continue their lives independently, are ashamed of their past. If they could, they would reincarnate and change everything. But they didn't know the truth back then, and they will never make those mistakes again. Do you understand? Is that possible? Yes, when you were in the process of formation. Now don't come telling me that someone at 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 70 years old doesn't know what they're doing. That person already has a formed psyche. After 25, the next day, your psyche is formed. You are who you are. You will be who you will be. There are 2 conversions. There's only one metanoia. For this reason, Professor Paul spoke in chapter 4 of the unit of Ephesians 1. Baptism. Why did he speak of one baptism, which people don't understand? Because 1, death is your ego. Romans 6. It's 1, death It's your ego. Metanoia is only one. That's what Hebrews says, 10 as well. To the Galatians, he taught about the fruits of good. Who remembers? And the works of evil, flesh and ego. This makes it clear that we don't change. No one changes. They only reveal themselves. Why reveal? Take off your clothes. Take off the mask. Sincerity is the word that means without a mask, sincere. Remove the veil, reveal. If you haven't understood yet, the Galatians say this: those people who are good, who have the Spirit of God, these people have long-suffering, gentleness, peace. It's a fruit. It's a package. It's a package of fruits. Today, young people have the term, companies too. The combo, right? It's a combo of fruits. Now, these fruits of evil, of the flesh, of the ego, are revenge, envy, jealousy, wrath. I don't know if you understood, but it's all connected in a package, in a combo of what you are. If you still haven't understood, there is no way a person can be gentle and angry at the same time. Wrath comes, but it is overcome. It is gentle. Above all, gentleness stands out. Gentleness always stands out. See, the frame might be wrath, but her movie is one of gentleness. If you understand the difference between good people and bad people, or the person who has revealed themselves as bad, it's that the good person makes mistakes just like the bad one. But as soon as she makes a mistake, it doesn't take seconds. Immediately a malicious weight comes over her from everything she did. And she wants to make it right immediately. And she wants to correct it, and she wants to do what's right forever. But the bad one, she has normalized the mistake. Do you know what the church says then? Keep trusting. Your husband will change. Your wife will change. Your child will change. Your mother will change. Your neighbor will change. Your boss will change. I don't know who will change. They won't change. Bend the knee. Jesus has power. Jesus has power. But bending the knee to invade someone's free will to change just because the knee wants it. Listen. The person has complete freedom to be who they are. They will be who they want to be. And they will reveal themselves. So, if their spirit, going back to psychodemonia, they were born with a nose like this, eyes like that, ears like this, hair like that, it doesn't matter. You noticed all people have duality, pros, and cons. Everything has to be worked on. Everything is an advantage and a disadvantage at the same time. Isn't it? If their spirit works with what they inherited from their parents. Do you remember a major study? My old one, which talked about inherited legacy. Who remembers that? You have an inherited legacy, but you have to alchemize it. You need to have an education. An evolution that changes that. So, at the time, I used to say, you are not to blame for your genetics. Are you? Didn't I mention in the class of 62 about not asking to exist? Yes. You are not to blame for your genetics. You are not to blame for the education you received, right? You are not to blame for the education you received. You are only to blame for one thing in this triangle. What you will do from that point forward. That's where the blood of Jesus comes in, Daniel. Because I am the EDIM of the light. And it excluded me, mother, father. And it excluded me, grandparents, paternal, maternal. But what I will do with the education I received, the genetics I received, is entirely my responsibility. The qualities I will accept and maintain. The flaws I will correct. That's why it's impossible for someone to blame their father and mother. For someone to blame where they were born, why they were born, how they were born. Because everyone has the fair and spiritual opportunity to alchemize. You can transform all the genetics you received and all the education you received. Through what? Evolution. And this, I revealed at the time, is the true hereditary curse. This is the true hereditary curse. What is the hereditary curse? For you, not to evolve and continue. To continue what you received from your parents. So, assuming you have bad genetics, even though everything is dual, and assuming you had a bad education, even though everything is dual, you have a choice: continuity or change. Understand? And if you chose continuity, that is the hereditary curse. You are responsible for the hereditary curse. There is no hereditary curse that mystically came upon you. You are the one who decides if the curse continues or not.
The Creator entrusts us with the responsibility of managing a temple. And then we receive a messy, dirty temple with renovations to be done. But then, good management of the responsibility of this temple will make us transform this temple and make it impeccable.
Exactly. Freud said that when the pain of not living becomes greater than the fear of change, the person changes. I know I'm saying a lot of things that need silence to think about. You just need to go back. The class, pause, transcribe. Look at the screen, listen again, speak again. However, people who change due to opportunism, due to circumstances to survive, suffer false conversions. What are churches made of? Of false conversions. But, Professor, I have a testimony. Have you observed? There are 3 topics. Duality, God does not interfere. And no one changes. When I talk about duality, people say, I have a testimony, I saw the devil. I was possessed. I saw someone possessed. I saw the demon. I felt it. It hit me, came in my dream, dragged me. You talk about God not interfering? I have a testimony, I was healed, given up on by medicine. Then you talk about no one changing? I have a testimony, I changed. There was no hope for me anymore. Such a person I know had no hope anymore, but God changed them. Actually, what is this? Psychic adaptation. And psychic adaptation is not change. But I know many people who changed their lives in my church. Let me explain, shall we? What happens? Stopped selling their body to sell the gospel. Stopped selling drugs to sell the word of God, the music of God. Actually, the people who are in churches, they just changed the setting because they do the same thing now more securely. In fact, people attend, I know, I was born in the church. People attend church hoping for a husband, a wife, a family, children, a job. Then, if they get it, then yes, they follow that path. And I'm tired of participating in conversations with people. Since God doesn't interfere, I've always told you this, since God doesn't interfere, we light the fire, the pyrotechnics. Does God send fire, interfere nowadays? As it is written in the Bible? No, right? Since he doesn't send it, I light the fire myself. So, what I always participated in meetings with people saying that one coming there is the user, right? Isn't he in a rehab center? Yes. Let's do the following. Let's find a wife for him. Who is there in the youth group? What if we introduced such and such person? We already know that if we put a woman in his life, suddenly he gets his act together. He has a motivation to get out of drugs. Let's help. Give him a job. You know, that businessman. They do. It's beautiful. The empathy, the affection, the social work. I'm not saying it's not. But it's not God's interference and change. It's a psychological adaptation. So much so that what I saw my whole life in churches, as soon as this marriage, which was very beautiful in the church, which I even participated in, and then this marriage went wrong, where did the person go? To the world they lived in immediately. And sometimes they came back even worse. So was it a change from God? But this here is the word of God. It's the gospel. In the Bible, every person who changes forever. You won't see in the Bible, in the gospel, someone who came before Jesus, knew the truth, and then went back, regressed, evolved. But what happens in churches today? The plastic gospel, the artificial gospel. The gospel that changes, but doesn't change, it adapts. Psychological adaptation. Did you notice? So, I'm going to talk now to conclude about the wisdom of the elastic. I've always told you that, just like the elastic you stretch, don't yield, don't flex more than 30% for someone. Because the signs of mismatch reveal that they are not compatible. Why am I saying this? Because I'm talking about how no one changes. There are many people out there waiting for someone to change. But if it's more than 30%, the elastic doesn't stay relaxed. It needs to be relaxed, slightly flexed, to bring happiness and achieve happiness in gold, flexion bonuses. I yield 30%. The other part yields 30%. Even in the school of Jesus, there are several elastics. Everyone is giving a little, but you can't live stretched out for someone. You won't be able to endure it, right? Living like that, stretched. So you don't live stretched. You're suffering at your job, where you live, in your marriage. You're like this, stretched. To save. Living stretched out doesn't work. We weren't called to live stretched out. The serpent wisdom is the most flexible animal of all animals, isn't it? Isn't a tie a zero? A tie? A tie is zero. And zero is zero, the most flexible serpent number of all. Both 8 and 0 are the numbers of the serpent. Yield, love, be loved, but with incompatibility. Yoke of a tie, similar yoke, equal yoke. If you don't understand, Professor Eck, in the 21st century, teach the same things in your words, in your mission, in your turn. Paul spoke of unequal yoke. I won't talk about yoke. Here there's no more ox threshing, nothing, nor women going to the river to wash clothes. Do you know anyone today who puts a bundle of clothes in a bucket, a yoke, and 2 women talking and going to the river to wash clothes? Do you know anyone? Difficult, right? Well, difficult. So Professor Ack won't talk about yoke. Professor Ack will talk about elastic. Then Professor Ack talks about elastic. You say, understand these things. I prefer from the Bible. The Bible is already done, my son. The yoke is already gone. Now it's elastic. It's just for you to understand that an unequal yoke is an unequal elastic. In the metaphor of the yoke, in the metaphor of the elastic, it's the same thing. 2 people together are carrying a weight. What is fair when 2 people are carrying a weight? And in a school, together as the school of Jesus, 15, 20, 30, 50, 100 people, they are all carrying a weight. Is it fair for just one person to always carry the others? Then people ask, where is the teacher or the organizer? Could it be because he carried your weight alone for too long and couldn't handle it? Because everyone should join hands and carry the weight. So we have to learn to be a part of it. And learn, above all, that no one changes. Accept that. The moment you accept that, see that people say, I want God to be good. But for there to be growth, correction, freedom, and truth, evil is needed. It is evil that evolves. I want God to intervene, but for God to intervene, God has to respect the will of the other, and the other, and the other, and everyone. I want a certain person to change. But for them to change, God would be interfering with their free will and the choice of what they want to be. So let's accept 3 great maxims. Evil. The justice of God, which is equality, which is equality. And that no one changes. We started this class laughing about someone's nose, someone else's hair. The protrusions, it's very good to know these things. And don't think this is a simple class. This is a class that, if you learn, you can look at someone and talk to them. People are mystical. People are mystical. People go after prophets, gypsies, to read their lives. Have you ever thought about looking at someone and saying, you know your teeth, the bottom part? Do you know your teeth? Left, right, top? Do you know if your hair represents something in physiognomy? Now, how are you going to do it if you can't even speak? Physiognomy? Let's start. Let's evolve to present to people. Do it right. Because the best way to learn is to teach, to pass on the message. And you are not here to keep this to yourselves. For you, right? That's it. We conclude this class here. 63. So, look, we moved from physics to anthropology, martiology, soteriology. We did original psychology, and now we're going back to anthropology again. Tomorrow, the next class is anthropology. After anthropology, we will enter sexology. And after sexology, then we will start those last wonderful classes that also made history. So much, right? Good people of God. What a miracle to do all this. In 72 classes, you know that physiognomy is a subject that would never end, right? If we were to analyze it. But if you have a little understanding, isn't it a spiritual pickup line? I always say, right, the analogy of the relationship with spirituality. Isn't it a pickup line? You approach a soul, a feminine soul, and say to her, did you know that your short hair represents duality, represents fidelity, represents loyalty, represents? Oh, really? That's physiognomy. Is it a good pickup line? It's a good conversation starter.
There's no rapture here. There's Mars.